Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Round Robin. With me today is Christina Mulligan, Nina Mulligan, Regina Lindsay, Angela Sinclair, and my husband, Deb Rustin. Hi, everyone.
Hi. Hi. Hello.
Hey.
On today's Round Robin, we are going to kind of break the pattern a little bit because Todd and I had a really cool experience. And the reason for the cool experience is because of my neighbor, Becky. So, Becky, thank you. Thank you so much for telling me about this. And she's like, hey, they're having a fundraiser. They want to build a new building, and they're showing a 3-part docuseries on Andrew Kehoe.
Yeah.
It was such an amazing experience from the moment we kind of gotten into Bath.
As soon as we got into town, you could feel that energy. This was such a local thing.
So they have their museum in the middle school. We go in, we buy our tickets, and there's all this memorabilia.
Yep.
Right? And everyone who's doing the tickets and this and that, older folks for sure. These people have these stories handed down to them from their families. These are all descendants.
Yep.
That are running the museum.
And survivors. There was at least a few survivors still there.
Yeah. So we wanted to share this experience because soon everyone is going to be able to see the docuseries. And I hope they do. And I'm quite surprised that nobody's ever made a movie about this before. It's kind of crazy. 1927?
Yeah, that kind of shit didn't happen back then, really. I mean, it was a big deal.
Did you guys know about Andrew Kehoe before we did the show?
No.
So we get there, and it's a full parking lot, for sure. I mean, it's a middle school, but the parking lot is full. We actually had to park farther away than we're accustomed to because there wasn't anything available, and it was cool. We walked in, and you could just see the whole community. Everybody knows each other. We're the only outsiders, really, I think.
Yeah.
It really did feel like it. We're not the people that grew up in this community.
They're all eyeballing you like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, it was very interesting. It was kind of a weird feeling, but they were like, come on in. And it was cool, so we could walk in, the doors opened, and they have this museum in the middle school. It's very limited space, though. So we're able to walk around and see some of the memorabilia and the historical things from this particular massacre, basically disaster, and it was cool. But we wanted to get a good seat. Boy, did we get good seats, though, didn't we?
We were like second row.
We were second row, front and center.
Because we were like, wait, listen.
Yeah.
I'm like, hon, do we look around or do we go get a seat? He's like, let's go get a freaking seat. I'm like, okay. So we were like in row 2, but where we sat, there were like 5 seats in front of us that were not even there.
Yeah.
And P.S., there was a fan.
Yeah, so we weren't sweating to death because it was
hot as a mofo.
Yeah, it was super hot that day.
Schools don't have air conditioning.
Yep.
Right? So you're sitting there and you're like, it was really overwhelming, the thoughts, because to be in the actual place that it happened.
Yeah.
Right? And to know that these people that were surrounding us were all tied to that.
Yeah. So we're surrounded by all these people that have ties to the story, either through relations or through friendships or whatever. But this community, I mean, everybody had a story. We're sitting there waiting for the show to start, and we're hearing more story than is even in the story. It was so totally cool. One of the stars from the show was actually sitting right behind us, and we heard all kinds of things that we never even knew or never even thought about.
Oh, and I was so eavesdropping. This is a 3-part docuseries. All the money goes to fundraise so that they can actually have a museum. They have so many artifacts that there's just not enough space. They have so many stories to go along with the artifacts. And it's quite a lovely building, and they want to have it completed by 2027, which would be the 100-year anniversary.
Yeah.
There's a filmmaker from Chicago that was very interested in this. It was amazing. So we got to see episode 1, episode 2. We got to see the cupola, which was on top of the school. It's been in the Memorial Park, and it's been as it was, untouched, unpainted, until just a couple of years ago.
Yeah, they put a fresh coat of paint on everything and sealed it all up. But once the museum is built, it will be center stage right up front, enclosed in glass. And let me tell you, this thing is not small by any means.
It's huge.
It is at least 4 feet by 4 feet by 10 feet. It's a huge piece of architecture.
So a couple of things that were striking for me was they talked about this little boy that when the explosion happened, he just grabbed his chair.
His school chair.
And he ran all the way home with it.
And didn't even realize it. And that's actually on display in the museum. This scared little boy ran all the way home with his school chair in his hands.
When I was in the 5th grade, I had spinal meningitis, and I blacked out and started having a seizure at the house. And my mom yelled for my dad, and he ran into the room, and he put his fingers in my mouth so that I wouldn't bite off my tongue. So I almost bit off his fingertips, by the way. And it took like 4 grown men, paramedic people, to, I guess, sedate me enough to put me on an ambulance and take me to the hospital. They did a spinal tap and all that stuff. When I say this because I don't remember being sick. I mean, I remember being home and being sick, but I don't remember passing out. I don't remember the seizure. I don't remember the ambulance. I just woke up and I was in the hospital. So it could be that these people did experience something so traumatic that their brain does not allow them to remember it. Because I imagine that what I was going through, having a seizure and all that kind of stuff, having a spinal tap done, in your bedroom right there, I'm sure a lot of that was painful and or scary. I don't remember any of it at all.
I don't know. I guess my brain got confused because I was thinking the flight and fright response in one, they were combined. He was so traumatized in the moment that both kicked in simultaneously because it's usually one or the other. I want to get back to the whole museum idea. I don't know how I feel about that. Is it going to be a museum on a school bombing, or is it going to be a museum more in memoriam of all of the people that passed?
Yes.
Because that's totally different. You know what I mean? Like, my take on it is completely different on those two subjects. Does that make sense?
Yes. So it's in memoriam, and it's run by the descendants of the children, the families from that era.
Okay.
The chair is there with the story behind it. The safe that was in the superintendent's office, Mr. Hike. Well, here's the thing. Why does the superintendent have a ginormous safe in his office?
That was pretty crazy because it was like
It's huge.
It was like a big bank safe. It was huge and thick.
It was a massive safe. It's like, okay.
As the superintendent back in that day, they did a lot of things for the community. Remember the whole treasury bit was all in that and everything?
Yeah, but here's the thing about that is Andrew Kehoe was the head of Treasury.
Yep.
So he was in control of the money.
So let's think about this for a second. So we definitely have a personality clash between Kehoe and Hike. Hike's got a safe so he can keep shit away from Kehoe.
Oh. Huh.
My question is, did they ever open the safe to see what was inside of it?
The safe was open, but still locked in the museum because I tried to open it. It was cracked open. So somebody has obviously emptied the contents of the safe. but I couldn't open the door because it was still latched a little bit.
Nobody knows.
Yep.
Nobody knows. Well, who knows? Somebody knows. Somebody knows what was in that safe.
Yeah.
But we were dumbfounded. We're like, what?
What superintendent
how
needs...
big? Hold up. How big would you say that was? Like 3 feet by...
3 feet...
3 feet square?
Cubed. Yeah, at least. It's a hefty...
That's a pretty big safe.
It's a hefty safe. Something that you would need a mechanism to move, at least, because this is not something that a team grab would be able to move. This is not something that would be moved by humans.
You need a professional.
Yeah.
The other thing they had there was the flag that was flying when the bombing occurred, and I was quite surprised at how clean it was. Well, here's the other thing that we talked about too, but this is important. Here's what's weird, guys. I want to get your input on this. You had all these explosives that went off. This place is made of brick and stone and mortar. Not one fire happened with this ginormous explosion.
The only thing that I can think of is that the explosion happened with such force, it extinguished anything that it could have caught on fire.
I was so proud of us because we nailed it. We nailed that show.
Yes.
Couple of things we learned. So we already told you about the boy with the chair. The other thing was, it was the last day of school. The wing where the dynamite exploded was actually in the younger part, the younger children wing. They were like, oh, read us the stories, last day of school. They were all huddled in one corner, and thank goodness they were.
Yeah.
But because a couple of classes were having this story time, it saved a lot of them, which was pretty
because they were
amazing.
all huddled in a safer spot in the classroom. They didn't
By
realize it
happenstance.
just by happenstance. Yeah. We also learned that Kehoe's wife, she was not dead yet when she was in the wheelbarrow, Christine.
Yep.
She was still alive.
And I was thinking, because I never saw anything to the contrary, that she was so ill, she was so emaciated, that he just plopped her in there. And then we had the round robin. We're like, no, he must have killed her, right? He put her dead body in there.
Right.
Right? Isn't that what we said on the round robin?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were imagining maybe he killed her before
Yeah.
he left to go do everything.
No. She was straight up alive
She
still.
was alive. And according to what we saw, and I don't know how they would know this, but he attacked her and wrapped her up in like rope, shoved something in her mouth, left her sitting there for I don't know how long, plopped her in the wheelbarrow, took her outside of the chicken coop, poured gasoline on her, and set her on fire. She was looking at him like, what? What?
Right. I was going to say it kind of tracks with his letting his stepmother burn to death in front of him.
Exactly.
Just stood there watching.
Exactly, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. He obviously had a penchant for horror. Up close and personal horror.
And the cool thing about Hike was he was a hero. And then he was going to transfer. This was actually his last year at this school. So
Well, there was such a contentious relationship with him and Kehoe. It was not good.
So this was going to be his last year at the school, and this is the last day of school, and all this happens, and this dude is like straight up the hero. He does not abandon ship.
No.
He's there the whole time. He's digging through rubble. He's getting these kids out. He's like doing everything he can. A true hero of the community.
The parents, they were so frightened of what they would see because the kids were all covered up, but they could see their shoes.
Yeah, they got to the point where the parents were identifying their children by their shoes because they didn't want to see what had actually happened to their children.
Right, could you imagine who would want to see it?
Right. And it was cool. It was cool to be a part of that community. Even as outsiders, it was cool to feel that and feel that between them.
Yeah.
And to hear them all talking, because everybody knew each other in this auditorium, it was striking. And I remember one of the people saying, "I think the whole city of Bath is here right now." It's a farming community.
Is there a gas station? Was there a gas station there?
I don't think there was a gas station there. You got to go to the big city for the gas
and the groceries.
Yeah.
And we can't wait to go back. And the other thing too is you heard some explanations about Kehoe, which I'd never heard before. He basically had a mouthful of gold teeth. The whole suit thing on the tractor, straight up, that absolutely happened.
The gentleman farmer, if he got a smudge of dirt on his suit, he'd have to change it.
Mm-hmm. People saw him and they explained how he looked that day, and he looked maniacal.
Yeah.
And I'll think about it like he's crazed. Like he's killed his wife, killed his animals, killed all the crops, the apple trees, the grapevines.
Yep.
He destroyed everything. He was at this point like so maniacal.
Yeah.
Okay. And then I've done all this. I've killed all them. Now, that's next for the children.
Mm-hmm.
And now for anybody who made it, I've got a truck full of everything you can imagine. Nuts, bolts, shovels.
Anything that could be shrapnel.
Pieces, anything.
Anything that can shoot out with explosives.
Let's go do it again.
To take out as many lives as he could possibly take. This guy was straight up evil.
Yeah. And that's where the movie ended.
Yeah.
That's where part 2 ends. But then they said he drove around and drove around and drove around the school because he was like, the whole thing should have went down.
I'm just still trying to wrap my head around this guy driving around town with a grill and a suit.
Right?
And a cigar.
No shit. He's like, yeah, his house is on fire, by the way, at the time. His house and his farm. And there's other people putting the fire out at his house, and he's like driving through town. What's going on, bitches?
Oh, yeah. Wait, but before that, he's like, hey, follow me. We're going to go to the school.
I need you guys to get on campus because I'm about to blow this shit up, yo.
Babe, what about the information if people want to donate?
Oh, okay. So there's a couple of different ways here. So they have a Facebook page. It's Bath School Museum. It's easy. You just type it in. It'll come right up. They also have a website, Bath School Museum, all one word, .org. bathschoolmuseum.org, one word. You can't miss it.
Oh, look.
Yeah, we're there.
Oh, guys.
There's the picture of the back of my head.
Yep, we're right up front.
Yep. Tracy bought a book. I bought the commemorative coin.
Yeah.
And we're gonna do everything we can do to help out this community because it's almost 100 years later, and
it's about remembering the people that he took. That's what it's about.
And the lives that he affected.
Yeah.
And
how it's affected every generation since.
And we felt it. We were there. We could feel that emotion from the community. It was overwhelming and still empowering too at the same time because you could see how this whole community, after almost 100 years, still rallied together.
Yeah.
It's a little bit curious that after 100 years, this is so alive in that community.
Right.
What else is going on in that community that this is so alive?
Nothing.
Yep. And the lady, one of the stars that was behind us in the row right behind us, she was talking. Nobody has really spoken about this for so long because they think of it as a black mark on the community. They've been ashamed. They've been scared. Nobody wanted to talk about it. And it wasn't until the early 2000s where this started coming out and people were like, you know what? We need to embrace this and we need to heal our community because we're obviously all still hurting. It took that long before they could do it. It was crazy.
So, legit, this guy marred this community with a 60 to 80 year black cloud.
Exactly.
Crazy as that. If you that's a macro scale of what we talk about when people hit depression.
Yeah.
Like, depression seems so microorganism-ish.
Yeah.
Pro scale of depression.
Exactly.
They literally flocked under that black cloud and just decided to live with the black cloud.
Right. Think about how small this community is. It's not much larger than it was back then.
It's legit. Dude, there's not a gas station. There's not a party store. There's not a grocery store.
Would be seriously interested in seeing some of these brain scans. The people that live there. I want to know how much critical thinking skills they have. For all of them that stayed there. And now I want to know the statistics of if you are born and raised in Bath, do you move away?
Good point.
Like, I want soil samples.
Why do I feel like in history... Well, wait, why do I feel like somewhere in history there was also another Bath and that was a disaster? No, I mean like an actual place, like a city, another city named Bath, somewhere in history, and it didn't end so well either. No?
Oh, somebody with some lookup skills. Look that up.
Like a Roman thing?
Oh, Regina's...
There's a Bath in England.
Here we go.
Oh. I don't know. I'm just thinking maybe there was a
Regina's
like
like,
a-
hold on.
Oh, by the way, Regina fucking knows.
Regina's
You know
like,
what? If I ever have a question, I'm going to Regina.
She's like, hold on.
Hey.
It's 17.
All right, here we go.
45.
You know, Dr. Ueda says the same thing. He's like, everybody just go ask Regina. If it's trivial nonsense, she's going to know.
Okay. Well, it could be the wine talking. I don't know. I just felt like this deja vu in my brain as if I should know something.
Yeah, there's like there was a UK incident on July the 30th of this year where a woman apparently perpetrated some kind of a chemical attack in Bath.
I'm not crazy.
Well,
Yay!
that's not history. That's like recent. It's bad.
I was
If it's
You're not
yesterday, it's
misremembering.
history.
I don't know about the crazy thing.
I come from a small community. Todd and Tracy know. I'm from Olivet. It's a really, really tiny community. But I know that when things happen, like everybody comes together, right? And we tend to hold on to our history. And these people may not have wanted to talk about it and may have felt embarrassed or like it was a black mark on them. And now they're realizing that other people are interested in what happened because it was such a tragedy. And like, we want to prevent this from happening, right? This is like making awareness. I think it's great that after 100 years, these people are still coming together and they're like, look, this is what happened to us. And it really fucking sucked. But we're still strong as a community. With our community being so small, we always, like, I know that we always kind of come together when we are needed. Like when that help is needed, we're all there for each other. And that's how it is in really small communities. Everybody knows everybody. They're family, they're friends, you know, and a lot of people don't move away from small communities. If they do, they come back because that's home.
Yeah.
That's what I found.
You're right.
I think also, I mean, as the parent, if my child were killed in, you know, a school massacre or something like that, I'm not moving away from where my baby is buried. It's not happening.
And there were so many people who lost their lives. Those people, they don't want to move away. They want to stay close. And I feel that, Regina, totally.
But it's very true. A lot of people that we grew up with, they've gone as far west as they can go, but then they're right back home.
I left for Arizona and came back 10 years later. I was like, I want to be home. I want to be with my family and my friends, you know.
It's a strong tie.
I lived in Dallas for 10 years, but we don't talk about that in polite company.
Who said we were polite?
Well, yeah, agreed. But, you know, there's just this whole Houston-Dallas thing. So I lived there for 10 years. Eventually, it did sort of grow on me, but it still was never home.
Let me just say real quick, the total of deaths that occurred because of this incident was 45, including the perpetrator. And that also includes the people that were trying to save lives, because there was people that were trying to save these kids and died in the process. The number of injured was 58. The motive they list as inconclusive, but we kind of got a pretty good idea what his motive was.
It was money.
It was greed.
I also think he was just a masochist. I think he liked the horror of it all.
I think you're right, because he wanted to see it up close.
That would make him a sadist.
And remember, he had that head trauma too, and speaking from experience, my father had a real blow up in his face, and his whole entire face was just horrible. And this was before I was born. So it was, I think, 1972 or 73. And all of his family say that his personality changed completely. And he is not a nice dude.
Yeah.
So this guy had that brain injury. He may have been kind of a normal dude before, but whatever happened, and it screwed those wires up and made him into this destructive, horrible person.
It really did. And my experiences in neurotrauma ICU, when someone had that frontal lobe trauma, and then the family, they would always say, this isn't him. This isn't how they were. They're so aggressive. They're so angry. They're so mean. They're so horrible.
They, a lot of times, are just in their brainstem. That higher reasoning portion of their brain is just not really engaged. And so, like Christine said, I worked in neurotrauma ICU as well. And a lot of it was they have difficulty speaking. They have receptive and expressive aphasia. So they don't really understand what's going on around them the way that you or I do right now. That part of them that was quick-witted, their sense of humor, all of those things are just sort of gone. And then they also are just generally frustrated because they can't communicate how they are feeling. Even if they can wrap their head around it, they still can't tell you about it. And the only thing I can relate it to is, I'm not a person that cries very often. If I do, it's usually because I'm ready to murder somebody, to be honest with you. I'm very angry. And then I can't express how I'm feeling because I'm crying, and then that pisses me off more. And it just sort of snowballs. And I think it's kind of a similar thing for people that have brain injuries where they just can't communicate the way that they once did, and it makes them angry.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
How awful.
I was just going to say, she showed me the picture of that cupola or whatever, and I was kind of amazed that it was, in fact, on top of that building. And how the heck did it survive? And it's in pretty good shape for that kind of destruction. I was kind of impressed by that, just saying.
Well, it's a focal piece at the museum, then, huh?
Yeah. It's going to be right up front and center as soon as you walk in.
And they have so many more things. And it's just, there's that chair. They have the chair that little boy grabbed when the bomb went off and ran home. And he's just holding this chair. They have the chair.
When I'm telling you, this chair is so mini. It's like,
so tiny.
When I show you, it's like this tall. This poor little kid ran all the way back to his home carrying a chair and not even realizing he had it in his hands. He was so terrified, so scared, just wanted to get back home. He just ran and had the chair in his hands the whole time and didn't even realize it.
That's awful.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys had fun and enjoyed it. And we'll all look forward to all the links you put at the bottom, because you could put some of those links that you want to share from them.
Right.
Yep.
We'll look forward to watching the documentary whenever it comes out.
All right, everyone. So thank you so much. Have a great week, and we will see you back on next Malice Monday. Bye.
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 Bye.